Hi everyone, so today we're going to be going through a potential 2020 election prediction between Bernie Sanders, the independent senator from Vermont, and Donald Trump, the incumbent president. So I've chosen Elizabeth Warren as Bernie Sanders' running mate for this scenario. I honestly don't think that Elizabeth Warren is the most likely, but she definitely is someone Bernie might pick. I think that the following people probably have a pretty good chance of being Bernie Sanders' running mate: Nina Turner, Elizabeth Warren, Tulsi Gabbard, and I think that that's pretty much it. He's not going to pick someone like a Kamala Harris, a Joe Biden, a Kirsten Gillibrand. He's not going to pick someone like that. I think Elizabeth Warren would be a solid pick, but I don't really feel like she would add much to the ticket, in the sense that Bernie Sanders is already a champion progressive, but Elizabeth Warren is kind of following Bernie Sanders. She doesn't really bring something new to the table, whereas someone like a Tulsi Gabbard, for example, would bring foreign policy into that ticket, which is an area that Bernie Sanders is weaker on in the area of foreign policy. So we have Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren versus Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Obviously, Trump keeping Pence from the state of Indiana. So Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, obviously all safe for Bernie Sanders. New Mexico, I'm putting in the safe column now. Illinois, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, the District of Columbia, all safe for Bernie Sanders, New York as well, also safe for Bernie Sanders, along with most of the state of Maine, but not all of it. So I'm putting the Maine at large in the safe column just because, again, Sanders is from Vermont. He won the 2016 primary here overwhelmingly. I see Bernie Sanders carrying the state of Maine at large pretty comfortably in the safe column. So 190 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Alaska, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, most of Nebraska except for that 2nd congressional district, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. Texas, that's difficult. I'm going to keep it in the toss-up column for now. I'll come back to it. Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana. So 190 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, 125 for Donald Trump and Mike Pence. So we're going to be going through the swing states: Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, Nebraska second, Texas, then moving into Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, then moving back up to Maine, New Hampshire, then moving into the Rust Belt with Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. So we've got a lot to get to, so let's start off in the state of Nevada. I see this one going to Bernie Sanders. Excuse me, I'm a bit sick right now, but I see that one going to Bernie Sanders. In the likely column, I mean the Democrats won here in 2018. They won the Senate race, they won the governor's race. I see Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren taking the state of Nevada. State of Arizona, this one's going to be pretty close, but I see narrowly Donald Trump eking this one out, just because I think Sanders and Trump alone might be able to, Sanders might be able to narrowly eke it out, but just having Elizabeth Warren on the ticket, she's not necessarily the most popular figure in the Democratic Party, arguably the third, probably the third most well-known Democrat running for president, aside from Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. She's the number 2 most well-known politician in running for president in 2020 right now, aside from Bernie Sanders, if you know what I mean. But I feel like Elizabeth Warren is just a bit too polarizing to win. In the state of Arizona, I see Donald Trump and Mike Pence eking Arizona out by a hair. So Colorado, that's not very difficult to call. I mean, Colorado has been trending Democratic for years now. I see the state of Colorado moving into the Sanders-Warren column. State of Texas, the only person I see actually coming close in Texas is O'Rourke. So, and even then, with Beto O'Rourke, I still see Trump eking out Texas over O'Rourke, just because again, he still lost to Ted Cruz, and that's something to note. I see the state of Texas moving into the likely GOP column. State of Nebraska, I mean, a progressive failed to win here. It really doesn't need much explanation to say why Trump and Pence would be the winning ticket in the 2nd District of Nebraska. So we've gone through the southwest part of the United States, plus Nebraska. 205 for Sanders Warren, 175 for Trump Pence. Now, the South, I think, is an area where Trump and Pence could do quite well in. This is because Sanders and Warren's politics, they play great in the Midwest and they play great in the Northeast, but I don't think they're going to play very well in conservative southern states. I see Trump winning in Florida. Florida is a state where the Republicans both won in their 2018 midterm races, and even though now convicted felons are allowed to vote, which undoubtedly will help the Democrats in the state of Florida, I think that Trump and Pence could eke out Florida very narrowly over Sanders Warren. We could also see in 2018 midterms that Andrew Gillum, a candidate endorsed by Bernie Sanders, failed to win, and in the state of Florida we could see the Trump-backed Ron DeSantis winning in the state of Florida. State of Georgia, this one doesn't really need much explanation. I mean, even though Stacey Abrams was a very okay, I think that's okay. Okay, even though Stacey Abrams failed to win here, she did come very close. But at the end of the day, I still see Donald Trump and Mike Pence narrowly eking out the state of Georgia. Same thing with North Carolina. I mean, Sanders and Warren. For Democrats to be able to win in North Carolina, they probably want to go with someone like a Kamala Harris, someone like a Joe Biden, someone like that, not necessarily go all out with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. While they would do great in the Midwest, and I'm going to get to that, their politics might not play as well in southern parts of this country. So North Carolina moves into the Trump-Pence column, but I see Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren carrying the state of Virginia. I don't think it would be very difficult for them to do that. I mean, the whole Virginia scandal has died down by now. I see Sanders and Warren not necessarily narrowly. I see them winning by a comfortable 5-6 points in Virginia. So we've done the southern states. It's overall the South goes to Trump and Pence with 235 electoral votes compared to Sanders and Warren's 218. So we're going to keep going through. We're going to go Maine, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and we'll finish out in the state of Iowa, which is actually the first caucus primary in the country. So in the state of Maine, I actually see Bernie Sanders narrowly winning in Maine's 2nd District. Now, the Democrat here won in Maine's 2nd District, Jared Golden. We could see that in Bernie Sanders is from Vermont, Elizabeth Warren is from Massachusetts, very close to the state of Maine. You can see they actually almost border each other there. But I see the whole of Maine actually moving into the Sanders column. So yeah, and the state of New Hampshire, this does not need much explanation. This was a swing state, even leaning Democratic, and both of the candidates border the state of New Hampshire, Vermont for Bernie Sanders, Warren from Massachusetts, and I see Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren easily taking the state of New Hampshire. Even Hillary Clinton won it, and she lost that primary. She only got, I think, a bit more than a third of the vote in the New Hampshire primary. Bernie Sanders absolutely decimated her in that primary in 2016. But I see, and for that reason, and even she was able to win it, and so for that reason, I see Bernie Sanders winning in the state of New Hampshire. So 223 electoral votes for Sanders Warren, 235 for Trump Pence. Overall, that's right, we have one more state, the state of Pennsylvania. I see the state of Pennsylvania moving into the Democratic column. We could see in the 2018 midterms, Democrats won a Senate seat here, they won a governor's seat, they won multiple House races here. I see the state of Pennsylvania even moving into the leaning Democratic column. I see Pennsylvania moving into the Democratic column. So overall, for the Northeast, victory for the Sanders-Warren campaign with 243 electoral votes for them compared to 235 for Donald Trump. So now we're going to go into Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and we'll finish out in Iowa. So, Ohio, that's going to be a very interesting state. However, at the end of the day, I actually see Sanders and Warren narrowly winning here. We can see in the state of Ohio, we can see the Democrats won a Senate race there in 2018. They did very well there in 2018. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have that progressive appeal. I think would do well in Ohio while coming up short in the southern states. So Michigan, I also see moving into the Sanders column. I don't think it would be all that difficult for Sanders to win here. I think his progressive appeal and grassroots appeal would do well in the state of Michigan. I think he would also win in Wisconsin, narrower than in Michigan and Pennsylvania. But Wisconsin, I see moving into the Democratic column. That officially puts Sanders and Warren over the line at 287 electoral votes to Trump and Pence's 235. So we're going to keep going here. Minnesota, I see moving into the Democratic column. I mean, Clinton was able to carry it. Sanders, I believe, he did. He won overwhelmingly here in the 2016 primary. It wouldn't be difficult for him to win in the state of Minnesota. In the state of Iowa, I see that one narrowly moving into the Sanders column. But I'm actually going to take back what I said about Ohio. Because now thinking about it, I mean, the Republicans did win a statewide election there along with the Democrats. Democrats did not pick up all that many House seats. But then again, Bernie Sanders has that progressive appeal. So I'm going to leave it as a pure toss-up. Iowa narrowly leaning towards the Democrats. Here in Iowa, I see Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren winning there. That means that Sanders and Warren would be the next president and vice president of the United States with 285 electoral votes for them and 235 electoral votes for Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Thank you for watching this video. Comment down your suggestions below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.